The cultural belief that voices are the unmediated expression and evidence of transpersonal categories, such as gender and race, is strong. When discussing this reality, the author of this week's reading states that I often invoke the example of Charles Clifford, an African American man who, in 1999, was convicted for selling drugs on the basis that the perceived sound of his voice made him culpable for the crime. Yet, Clifford's imprisonment, a result of what his lawyers called linguistic profiling, runs against the grain of influential humanities scholarship that has carefully demonstrated that the audio-visual markers of race are highly subjective. So, what the author discusses is linguistic profiling, the ways that the sound of someone's voice can be racialized, gendered, and classed. Vocal timbre is entrained and perceived through racialized listening practices, thereby debunking the assumption that voice is an unmediated essence. This is particularly the case in relation to the large body of scholarship that has explored the rich cultural and performance history of diverse forms of African American music. Although it may sound at first like a complete exaggeration, it is nonetheless true to say that the extensive scholarship on North American and African American musical traditions has never methodologically demystified racial suppositions about vocal timbre. Racial conceptions of the voice persist, but why has vocal timbre resisted analysis when most aspects of the racialized body have been critically treated? I contend that fundamental misconceptions about voice and vocal timbre have prevented careful and critical analysis. Therefore, if we think about this problem simply through questions around race and avoid examining understandings of the voice, we avoid examining universal understandings of the voice, we fail to get to the root of how categories, including race, are constructed through vocal timbre. In other words, we will easily note the attitudes about people that are overlaid on top of voice, but we will not be able to identify the distinct building blocks with which racialized timbre is projected, perceived, manifested, and sustained. The voice and the ways that it is racialized, um, the tone of voice, accents, loudness, patterns of speech, vocal fray, the constant use of a question at the end of every sentence rather than a statement is not innocent or universal. It often is an expression of class, race, gender, other markers of identity. Voice is also about who is speaking. When we speak through a body. Um, whose testimony is believed or believable, who we want to empathize with, who we choose to listen to, whose authority we trust, is all about the voice coming out of a speaking body. Music is something that many cultural anthropologists have studied in detail. Music is about voice, but it is also always about race and class, gender. The refusal to politicize music is a choice, and it is often a conservative choice. Most music emerges in a certain historical context out of a set of power relations. As the reading this week states, rather than the unarticulated taxonomy most listen from, voice teachers work to align vocal training with the vocal characters arising from particular cultural moments. Thus, classical voice teachers train and pair timbre profiles with conceptual areas such as identity and authenticity. For both the layperson and the voice teacher, timbre is a barometer of one's inner state and health, and is broadly held, continuously assessed, and reliably acted on. In fact, vocal timbre is used as a diagnostic for gendered mental health issues, she's hysterical, and a diagnostic for truth statements, she's lying. Major plots in Western literature generally, and the Bible specifically, hinge on the character's ability to judge authenticity through voice. When we discuss the correctness of one's voice and tone, which are crucial topics in pedagogy, issues of what kinds of information these aspects convey about a singer also arose. The song music is deeply political. Paul Gilroy writes about the topos of unsayability in relation to slavery. Those who were enslaved could not speak freely about the condition of their oppression. Songs, like slave spirituals, became ways of transporting people through the Underground Railroad to freedom. The song is inadvertent, it is about something else. Once the assumption that sound is knowable is in place, values and beliefs within a given society around, say, race, ethnicity, gender, age, or class, then also become knowable through sound. Concepts such as correctness, health, and authenticity are vacated prior to their use within a cultural and social situation. Hence, because sound in general and the timbre of a voice in particular have no prior meaning, whatever sentiments, positions, and values a given society deems important from this seems important fill this vacuum. In other words, the assumption that we can know sound and that the meaning we infer about it is stable and indeed essential allows for the projection of beliefs about people onto the sound. Music, the sound of a speaking body. The name that one has and one utters throughout the course of a life is about race. Race is felt in these minute gestures of the speaking body, of who listens to this body, of who can be believed. As discussed in previous lectures, anthropological witnessing involves taking the time to tell the truth, but it also involves actively listening to the sound of others,